discuss pertinent information and what's affecting Black America today, and a lot is affecting us. So I want to start out today, Mario, if you don't mind.
Go
Uh,
ahead, Brent. You got it.
okay, Nuri Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, and I wish we could have had his short little recording, but we couldn't pull it up. But the basis of his talk was that Black history is a scam. Black
What?
history does not exist. And we think of our history starting when we got off the slave ships. He says, no, it doesn't start. You go all the way back to Imhotep of the 27th BC. And he also mentioned Mansa Musa, 1312 to 1331. Then he goes on to talk about how we talk about black slaves, and this really pissed me off when he said slaves in mud huts. And I said, why the hell does he have to demean slaves that way in mud huts? Then he goes on to say that because we have been so influenced by whites that what we write is based on our influence by whites. So it's all a scam. It's all a scam. So like he could get in my head and in Mario's head and tell us what has affected us. And let me just say that when he called it a scam, folks, he's calling what Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in Black Reconstruction a scam.
Mm.
But Dr. John Hope Franklin wrote in From Slavery to Freedom a scam. What Jerome Bennett Jr. wrote in Before the Mayflower History of Black America from 1619 to 1969, a scam. A scam. These guys wrote this stuff before he was even born, while he was probably still in diapers or whatever in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now all of a sudden somebody gave this guy a book, gave him a little authority, and he's going around insulting great black writers. And I believe Louis Farrakhan, if he knows about this, needs to have apologize to all these black historians. And I can just personally, I was involved in teaching Black history at Indiana University. Now, here's the progression. I was teaching a Black history course. Right down the hall was a brother teaching African history. Okay? So you could take my class and learn about Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, boom, 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 all the way up to, at that time, of course, there wasn't a Barack Obama, but up through Dr. King and Jesse Jackson. Mm. Then you could go down the hall and take that brother's course and learn about African history. Okay? Mm-hmm. So there is a distinction. There is definitely a distinction in those histories. So I wanted to lead with that because I wanted to get my thoughts out about this brother. There he is. And his arrogance. I mean, just absolute arrogance to call Black history a scam. And of course, I mentioned Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black history. And if you go back and look at some of Dr. Woodson's writings, when he created the association in 1915, he made it clear that the writers and the history would be brought to us by Black writers. So there was no necessarily white folks looking over his shoulder telling them how to write it. I mean, come on, Mario. The more I think about this, I get more pissed off because
I'm glad you got it out, because now you're pissing me off telling me what he said. It's ridiculous, man. Well, people don't know history at all, and like I think I've said this somewhere. I have Nigerian students in some of my classes, and I asked them, did your mom and dad ever call themselves Black? And the answer is no, because they still identify tribal. They're either Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo, or whatever the case may be. So way back I guess I'm assuming that Mr. Muhammad is talking about ancient history, BC history,
Yeah.
um, before Christ, or BCE, before the Common Era. Um, and I'm assuming he's talking about that, but Africans didn't call themselves black back then. The term black got put on Africans because that's what the slave master uh, made that to every. In other words, you weren't different culturally. You all looked the same to me, and what a slave owner might say. Look, y'all are all black. That's the way they would do it, and they did. Native Americans the same way. Yeah, well, I'm not an Indian. I'm Comanche. Well, I thought you were an Apache, but it doesn't matter to us because we think all of you Indians look the same
Indian.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So black people didn't exist before that. Just like white people didn't exist either before 1700s. They were either German or Irish or whatever the case may be. They got all turned into white people. But so him talking about black history is a sham. Well, if he were to say Tim Scott said that, then I might believe it.
Yeah. 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 It'd be like saying because American history doesn't include Socrates and Plato, it's a scam. You
Yeah.
know, and that's comparable to what he's saying to us because you're not talking about Imhotep and folks in what 3, 4 thousand years ago, maybe that's exaggeration. 2,000 years ago, it's a scam when you talk about Black history,
Yeah.
and
Crazy. It's
I
crazy.
just
It's absolutely crazy, Fred.
yeah, I had to get off my chest because, and I just wish Kyle could have played that piece so everybody, all our viewers, could hear what this guy is saying. So, to all our viewers, I would suggest that if you can, find that piece and watch it and see what he is saying.
Mm.
I mean, this guy is still wet behind his ears. I mean, I don't want to be insulting, so let me stop now. But that's ridiculous. I taught a Black History course in 1972 at Monterey Peninsula College. I
Mm.
taught one at Indiana University, and then I taught them here, and we put together the Black History minor here at UTSA, which I think Mario, you're still dealing with it, right?
Yeah.
The minor, yeah. And so what you're doing, brother, is a scam, according to Nerd. You're a scam, man.
Well, see, what he doesn't want to recognize for whatever reasons is that black folk, Africans, came to this country and created their own culture, survived against white supremacy, and
That's right, man. Yeah,
built the White House, fought against white supremacy, survived the horrors of slavery. So just like every black person in the world has their own history, I'm sure blacks in Canada have their own history.
yeah,
Sure, blacks in Czechoslovakia, and there are some there, by the way, they have a history. So everywhere in the world, blacks in Liberia don't have the same history as blacks in Egypt. So what he's saying makes no sense whatsoever.
right. And when he talks about slaves in mud huts, instead of talking about how these black folks were able to survive when they're not in the cotton fields, they were in their homes or whatever you want to call them, and they're figuring out how they're going to make it so that we could be here. So he has a chance to do what he's doing is directly associated what
Yeah.
they went through, and then through Jim Crow, all that stuff. And he's putting that down when we write about it. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
Uh,
he
So,
needs to wake up and smell some coffee or smell something because what he's saying is, I agree with you, Fred. That's just crazy. It's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
yeah. So, okay, I got that off my chest. Thank you, Mario, for letting me do that. So, I guess we're going to take a break here. When we come back, let's talk about something that I know you're much, much, much better at talk about than me, and that's the mayoral election coming up in San Antonio.
Yeah,
So,
oh my
great.
goodness. Good.
When
And
I
I'll be
came back from the war, I was barely hanging on by a thread. I'm here today because of Tanya's relentless efforts in trying to get me healed. and says, Michael, I know you've got a plan to take your life today, but if you give me just 5 more minutes to love you.
5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, honey, 5 more minutes to love.
Michael has actually taught me what it looks like to accept help.
The bravest person I know is definitely my dad, 100%.
My friend Sean.
My daughter Cynthia, and she was in the United States Army.
One of the bravest things he ever did wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
Our journey has not been easy.
One of the bravest things he did was when he asked to move in with me and my mom.
I felt like I was lost, and you gave me a place to stay.
When he decided he was going to go back to school after 23 years.
It was the better part of my life that I spent in the Marine Corps. Transitioning out, it's a difficult thing.
She went on foreign soil. She went to war. But the bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
So I really appreciate it.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
People couldn't see my potential, so I had to show them.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
Today, I'm the CEO of my own company.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
Why are we not rethinking this?
I am more.
I'm more
than who I am on paper.
Black Life Texas News Magazine, your go-to source for informative, creative, and engaging news. With 85 convenient locations throughout San Antonio, Black Life Texas News Magazine brings you the latest updates on politics, social justice, culture, entertainment, and more. From thought-provoking articles to inspiring profiles, we cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, connected, and inspired with our in-depth analysis and coverage of critical issues affecting the Black community. But we don't stop there. Black Life Texas News Magazine is your guide to upcoming events, festivals, and exhibitions that celebrate African American heritage and promote unity. Don't miss another copy. Subscribe today for convenient home delivery. Get your hands on Black Life Texas News Magazine and be part of the conversation that matters most to our community. Black Life Texas.
Welcome back to the Wise Guys, the hottest show in San Antonio with two of the wisest Black men in the country. And that's why we're called the Wise Guys. Little bragging, that's okay. All right, let's turn to what's happening in the streets of San Antonio with the mayor's race. So,
well, we got a big runoff coming up.
We got two candidates, one Rolando Pablos, and the other one Gina Ortiz Jones. So give us your best insight into these folks.
Okay. Well, let me. I'm going to start with Gina, and then we'll talk about Pablos. Gina went to John Jay High School on the southwest side of town. And John Jay High School, she went to elementary school. She's from San Antonio, pretty much. And she's Filipino, by the way. And anybody that's been to the Philippines know they have is part Hispanic because of the Spanish invaded the Philippines a long time ago. But she's very progressive. She has a good policy. She has good policy on affordable housing. And you talk about the importance. She talked about the importance of that the other night. I actually went to go see her over at the Dakota Street Grill over on the east side. She's doing a rally, I think, at HEB. I'm not sure when that is. I think it's Saturday on the east side of HEB on, I think, on Houston Street. And she's going to be over with the black ministers at Greater Love Baptist Church, I believe, Thursday night at probably about 6. So she's making her rounds in the black community. She was with Jalen Rodriguez the other night, and she's making a really strong showing as opposed to the Pablo guy and Pablos. And I'll say this: Gina Jones at the debate. It was a debate a couple of nights ago, and she actually called Pablos a puppet of Greg Abbott. And I thought that was right on time. That's about what he is. He got millions of dollars to come in here to San Antonio. There's no record that he ever voted in San Antonio ever. So he doesn't have any kind of a San Antonio presence or record. And once again, I think Gina Jones is right by calling him a puppet because Abbott put him up to running. And Abbott put him up to running because Abbott has been mad at Ron Nuremberg forever because Ron wouldn't go along with the immigration policies, wouldn't go along with anything Abbott has to say. And he's concerned that Gina Ortiz Jones is going to be another Ron Nuremberg, and everybody loves that. They're hoping she is because he did a lot of good progressive things. She's, I think, fairly strong on affordable housing. She's fairly strong on crime. Fairly strong on helping school districts educate our kids. So she's got real good policies. And I thought it was hilarious when I heard Pablos the other night saying that he was mad because he was called a puppet. So he came up with this, what I thought, or what he thinks is some masterful quote. And what he wound up saying, Fred, was this is a nonpartisan race, and she introduced partisan politics into that by calling me a puppet of Abbott. And I'm saying that doesn't even make any sense. He introduced partisan politics by taking $2 million from the governor, a Republican. So if it's a nonpartisan race, why did you, Mr. Pablos, take $2 million from Greg Abbott in an attempt to turn a blue city into a red city? So we're looking at a real hot election. The election's actually coming up. Early voting starting pretty soon. And I think the actual election's on June 7th, if I'm not mistaken. And then the early vote's going to happen sooner than that.
Yeah. What bothers me is if this guy has gotten all his money from Abbott, and then he goes, I heard one of the debates where he said, somebody asked him about that. He said, I'm my own man. Give me a break, man. If you believe that, I got a 2025 Jaguar right off the rack that I'll sell you for $5. There's no way that they're putting all this money into this guy and he's not going to do their bidding, which leads me to the next, for black people, the critical question. Abbott has gone along with Trump's plan to do away with all DEI, and he's doing it. So does that mean that Pablos is going to also, wherever there is DEI in San Antonio government, is he going to try to remove the blacks that have made progress? Has anyone gotten, other than this whole thing about I'll be my own man, that we need for him, if black people, like some of these blacks are running around with this guy, and there's one black that puts on Facebook, he'll have, can you believe this? He actually says, we'll have connections into Austin and into DC. Why the hell would you want connections into Austin and DC as a black?
Yeah.
As a black man, come on, give me a break. Yeah, So has anyone made him give a definitive statement about DEI? And it reminds me of, Mario, when you watch some of the Trump surrogates, when they ask him, just yes or no in when they're having hearings. I just want a yes or no answer. It's such and such, such and such. And they know if they say yes, it's going to go against Trump. So they just, they filibuster. No.
Yeah, we know what he thinks about DEI, even if he never says it. We already know what he says. We know what the governor said, and that's his boy.
Right. So if that's the case, please explain to me, because you know better than I do, why would these blacks be supporting this guy?
Well, when money flows, so does the ignorance. And we all know that when anytime Republicans are running for something, especially in this climate, they throw out a lot of money. They'll go get some guys out of the hood who can't even vote because they're still on paper. They're still on parole and probation. They'll go get some of those guys to hold up blacks for Trump signs. And pay, and the only reason that can happen is they pay the money. One guy actually admitted that one time, that he was paid to hold up a sign, and even made the remark about I can't vote.
But he's held up that sign.
Yeah. So the money's being passed out because people who don't have jobs or don't work, some of them ain't never had a regular job in their whole life, but they got their hand out, and they kind of don't care they'll take $1 from the devil, and because that's kind of what they're into. But black folks who have principle aren't going to do that. And, so I think we're dealing
values.
I think we're dealing with some blacks that are in desperate need of money, and that's the only reason that they probably don't support Pablos at all. They're just trying to get a paycheck.
So let's assume, well, hopefully it doesn't happen. Let's assume he wins, and now he's going to bring in some of that conservative stuff out of Austin. How do you view the city council dealing with him?
Well, if you look at each city council district, you'll notice you have a representative from the west side who in my opinion, is not going to go along with Pablo. And let me tell you, maybe he hasn't done his homework. This is a council manager form of government.
Right.
Because it is council manager form. The mayor only has one vote. This ain't Houston. He can't. The mayor has to have 6 votes, and I don't see Pablo's he ain't going to be able to get 6 votes.
You don't think he can with that?
No, if he gets elected, he ain't going to get 6 votes. He'll get maybe a vote on it. Depends on who wins in District 9, though, because that's going to a runoff, too. And in District 1, I don't think he can get a vote out of District 1 no matter who wins that. And in District 9, I think there's one lady running. If she wins, she wouldn't vote with him. I don't think so. So what 9, 10? Maybe 1, 9, 10. 8 is, she ain't going to vote with the mayor. That's Joel DeRicci's daughter. So, I mean, I think you still got at 6 for sure, and I think you probably got 7 votes that Pablos is dead in the water. He ain't going to get votes to do what he wants to. He can't carry out Abbott's agenda when he has 6 people that are probably going to vote against him. So he's wasting his time. Even if he wins, I think he's going to get crushed.
Okay, how about the money factor? They'll just load him up with. How will that work? Can the money flow from Trump to Abbott to him?
Yeah, I think so. They can do it in different kinds of ways. They can take campaign money from one account. You can always take campaign money from one account and flow it over to another account. That's legal to do. So I would suspect, because Pablo's got $2 million from Abbott coming out of his campaign, or from lobbyists that Abbott works closely with and asked them to sign a check over to Pablo's. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. He can get money, campaign, retire your debt money, get all kinds of money from Trump, and then he could filter that money out in different kinds of ways. And there's all kinds of little loopholes in the law to be able for someone to do that. And I remember when I was a city councilman, I gave James Howard $3,000 for his school board election.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so you can take money that you have and funnel it over into another candidate. That's legal.
We know Trump and Abbott don't like, and I can't think of the word, you can help me if you can think of it, cities that have allow immigrants to be there. You know what I'm talking about, those cities. Can he remove that?
Well, he can't remove the mayor. That's for sure.
No, I mean, can if Pablos is mayor, can he no longer consider San Antonio safe haven for immigrants?
He could make some kind of an order that may not, people might not follow it. He could issue some sort of order or ask for ordinance. He wouldn't get the votes for an ordinance, but if he got, he could issue, San Antonio. He could by proclamation perhaps say San Antonio is not considered a sanctuary city anymore.
Sanctuary city, yeah.
But it wouldn't have any teeth to it. I mean, what kind of teeth would that be? Just a symbolic thing to make him look good. Make Abbott happy about that. But really, if as long as and I remember Police Chief McManus saying he was not ordering his police department to arrest illegal immigrants or undocumented people. And then I remember Abbott getting all mad about that, saying they were going to file a lawsuit against San Antonio for not enforcing, these rules and stuff. But there's a bottom line to some of this. And some of it is a lot of police officers are saying that's not their job. And you could make all kinds of rules and what have you, they're not going to enforce it. If an individual policeman is feeling that way, and many of them are, they're just not going to enforce it. They're not going around saying there's another illegal immigrant, get the binoculars out, let's go get him. They're not going to do that. You can have a law in the books and it won't be enforced. We see that happen every day. You have a law that's not going to be enforced. So I don't think if Pablos were to win, I think he's still restricted by the 6 majority vote. He won't be able to do too much of anything. And I don't know if he's thinking about that or not, but he ought to. He ain't going to be able to do nothing.
Okay, let's switch over. Let's say Jones wins. Number one, the sex issue hasn't become an issue, has it? Her being lesbian?
Yeah, no, it hasn't become an issue. It probably won't be either at this point. It's kind of too late in the game, unless somebody plans on being real ugly or something toward the very end, and that's possible. But her position, on immigrants is she said over and over again, I'm not for harming the most marginalized people. I'm not going to do that. She said that last night. I heard her say that last night. We ought to be protecting the most marginalized people. And she constantly repeats that. That kind of tells me where she is on the issue of gay people, on the issue of immigrants, on the issue of poor people. She talked a lot about the problem of poverty in San Antonio. And so she'll be, I think, a fairly progressive candidate. If she has any faults, it might be she was in the military too long. And so you might be a little bit headstrong as a result of that. And at least all the friends I know that were in the military too long, they're real big headed. But they're normally good folks. And she's a good person.
Yeah. How well do you think you get along with the city council as opposed to Pablos?
Well, I think she'll get along real well from the very beginning. I know her and Jalen have been around talking and working together. Did the District 2 rep, and I'm sure that the District 5 lady will be there as well. And I think the others will probably follow in suit. The new guy over in District 4, young guy with a lot of hair.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but he seems to be very progressive as well. So I think most of them are going to get along with her pretty well. They're always, in the city council, there's always some disagreements about this, that, and the other. But I don't, at this point, I don't see them blowing up to the point of there'll be a lot of opposition against her from the existing council that's there now.
Okay. Okay. Before we close out, just one more quick issue. Everybody's making, not everybody, but a lot of people make an issue of this Pope being Haitian or having black blood. And as far as I'm concerned, what the hell difference does it make?
You mean the Pope?
The Pope. Yeah, what does, I mean, it's so, to me, the way I feel, if someone is not going to acknowledge their blackness, I am certainly not going to go out of my way to try to prove that they are.
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, that would be the last person we'd want to start bugging him about, because he's progressive in about every other thing.
He is very progressive, yeah.
He's for black folks, even if he doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah.
That he's part black. So at that point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a good point, Fred. I think his policies and the way he has presented himself so far would indicate to any observer that he's progressive, and whatever his DNA said is another story.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to close out here, and next week we're going to have some more hot topics, no doubt about it, because everything is happening in this country. I mean, we're in turmoil, we're in turmoil. We really are. And this is a time, a lot of folks, Mario and I, you and I can relate to the pre-civil rights days.
Yep.
We can relate to that. And that's exactly where Trump is trying to take us back before, I'd say, even 1954, when they had the famous Brown versus Board of Education decision. So there's a lot of topics that we can cover, you and I, with our experience.
Before you close it, let me get this in, because I think we ought to talk about this. That slave mansion burnt down the other day. And I have seen nothing but black folks celebrating that slave mansion that was being used for a resort of all things. Yeah. I mean, that's like asking people to go over to Auschwitz and get married.
Yeah. Along those lines, my wife and I went to a presentation in New Orleans, and part of the presentation was to take us to that place. I wouldn't go. I said, why the hell do I want to go in a place that was so abusive to my people? And so we didn't go. So I know a lot of blacks have rejoiced that it's gone, and it should be gone. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to get married over where Charles Manson used to live? I don't think so.
I hear you. Yeah, definitely. Okay, we're going to close out. Mario, as usual, good show, good conversation. You're full of a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate it. And so we're going to keep going. So Wise Guys will be back next Wednesday, 6:30, and we'll look forward to all of you all joining in and hear what we have to say, because we're giving you the real truth.
Stay wise.
Stay wise. Yeah.